So that whole day, I was engulfed by these thoughts. Okay, so you don't understand it. I started opening that book, turning the first page, and just at the time that I started the first page, I'm reading, I don't understand anything. You read it, but you don't understand, you don't retain information. What is the point of reading if you don't understand anything? Oh my God, I don't know what to do with it. So my story started first at one night when we were waiting for the dinner with one of my teachers. So I was speaking to him and I was talking about how many languages did he speak and the importance of learning and so many things that were the likes of these topics. So we were having this conversation and he's in my right side and there was another guy who would come and also interrupt our conversations. So then I asked him, because I thought that's the time for me to ask him about books. So I told him about books. When I started this conversation with him, he suddenly picked up a piece of paper from his pocket and also he took one of his pens. You know, so many people, they put pens in their pockets. So he wrote down the name of the book. So I took it and I said, okay, so what type of magical book would he want me to start with? So when I saw that, I saw The Alchemist. And he said there is the story of this alchemist and he goes there and he does this. And it's a good book for you to start with. Because I was not a reader. I was a reader of, let's say, school books at those times. Or maybe any type of academic books that I would find. I would just try them. Or I would read it with this teacher. So he said that this is a book that you can start with because it's an easy book, so it will go well for you. So I took that and I said, okay, one day I will read this book. So the night passed and there was some weeks after it, maybe even months. So one day I went out with my father in a car. So there were so many libraries on the street, but they had one particular place where there were some shopkeepers who would gather together, so they would do sales of books. So there was one guy talking to me, and just at the moment he was proposing this book and that book for reading and it's good for you to start with. I said, do you have The Alchemist? And they said, yes, we do have it. So I said, I want to take this book. And there were some other books that they recommended that I started with, so I just took The Alchemist and some other books. When I went home, when I took the book in my hands, I opened the book, first page, so I'm very happy because this is the book that I'm starting now. And it could be very easy, no? Because I have read books with my teacher. I've read books, academic books, at school, at some other places. So I'm not like a newbie, let's say. I started opening that book, turning the first page. So I looked at the contents, okay, so it's good. And when I started the first page, and just at the time that I started the first page, I'm reading, I don't understand anything. It's very, very hard to understand and comprehend. Even if it's a book that is recommended for someone who would read for the first time. I don't understand anything. So I first took the first page and I finished it. And then I went to the second page. I'm not understanding anything. What is he going? I'm just understanding the history that this guy from this place went to this place and he did that, and story structures that I don't know how to connect. Because that was my first time that I read a book. I said it was not that easy. I was thinking, as sometimes in our lives, we have our expectations, but if they are beaten by something even bigger, then it will be very disheartening for us. The same thing happened to me. I was thinking, okay, I have read books. Let's start with this book. I'll finish this and I will ask my teacher to tell me about the next book, so I would finish that as well. But now I'm not even like finishing the first page of it and understanding even something about this book. I thought that no, reading books is not something simple. No matter how many things have you read in the past, when you start reading books, it's really hard to even understand the page, let alone retaining it, or making arguments with it, or even making conclusions with that book, which are the things that we are more concerned about. But what we mostly miss is that understanding the book itself. You read the sentences, but you don't understand anything. You don't understand something. You may know like what is going on, okay, a bit. You don't know how to read well at first. So I just took the book, put it away. I just put it in my wardrobe and I didn't even go to it. That was it. There were some YouTube videos with some teachers they would read the book and they would tell you, okay, so it means this, it means that. So it would be easier for you to read books. So he or she can in some ways teach you how to read that. And that was one of the motivations for me to take that book. But I didn't go to that book again. I didn't go there to take that book and say, okay, with some hope, I can do something to understand it. No, I just put it away. That's it. There was a school event, so we went to the second school. There was the first and the second. The second was a bit different from ours. So we went there because there was an event of, you can guess, of what? Of books. So I went there because I still had the passion of going and taking books. So we went there and there were some people talking about the importance of books and importance of e-books, the physical books and everything. So we were standing there in a sunshine. It's very, very hot at that time. And we were standing there for half an hour. When they finished, the guy who was speaking there in front of us, he said, after this event that we were talking, you can go there and take those books. You can buy them. So I went there, I said, okay, it's good. Let's see what type of books do they have. So when I went there and I saw books in so many big topics like Guinness book, like storybooks, so many books I found. But there was only one book that took my attention. And that was the book that so many YouTubers that I followed, they would recommend this particular book. When I went there, I said, okay, is this yours? Something I had a conversation with that guy and he said, okay. So that guy, he was like busy with some other people. So I went there and I took that book and I saw in my hands Atomic Habits by James Clear. In some ways, even if I didn't know what this book was about, I had some of understanding about the subject of this book because it's about habits, because it says Atomic Habits. I said, I want to take this book. I bought that book, I took it home, I started reading. This time, it was not like the first time. And the time between The Alchemist and Atomic Habits was like years that I've passed and I've maybe practiced something. So when I started reading the book, I became very, very passionate with reading books. Because my expectation of not understanding anything and having this frustration when you're reading, because if you're reading something that you don't understand, you get frustrated. And this is a human thing. When you don't understand something, or when something goes to your mind, or when you don't have any motivation, or when you thought in some ways that you would read this book very well, or anything, it could be anything, books, like a news article or anything. or something to listen you don't understand. It is very disheartening. So you get frustrated. So this time I didn't get frustrated, but I had another problem. I understood so many things, so many laws, like the response that you take from a habit, how to find a cue for your habit, how to make a craving for your habit. I really got interested into this book. But this time, it was not the same problem. The problem from understanding went to consistency. I had some understanding of this book, but let alone retaining or something. I was very passionate about this book. So I would read it. So I would read this book because it's a very good book. It tells you so many things. I would just read it, but I would not understand that fully. Like understand what the author is saying. I would not even know the connection of the author and the reader. I was understanding what the book is saying. Consistency was the other part, and also retaining. So it's not about one thing. You may say, okay, I understand this book, so that's it. After reading a book, after spending time to one book, that's a joke, you know? If you don't retain something, that's a joke. It means that you haven't improved something. You've just read a book for fun. That's it. I was very, very bad with consistency. And how much time did it take me to read Atomic Habits? Can you guess that? 2 months? No, definitely not. It took me 2 years to finish that particular book. It took me 2 complete years. It took me that much time to finish that book. So this is only consistency, let alone retaining. Retaining is something else. It's only about consistency. When I finished that book, I said, I don't want to read the same way before. I want to read some other books now. So I went to the website and I took $1 Million Weekend and some other books. $1 Million Weekend, The Psychology of Money, and some other books that took my attention. So I took those books, I started reading, I became more passionate, and reading became easier for me after finishing a book. And so I was going good. Like, I read one book, I finished it. I read the second book, I finished it as well. I was feeling good because I was like understanding those books and I can finish them. And the problem for so many people is that they have to just finish the book, which is not something actually important. It's not important for you to finish a book, okay? If you don't retain something, what is the point of finishing it? At least you had to instead read one page 3 times instead of reading 3 pages. Because it's more important for you to retain it, to retain that information and apply that book, which is something I haven't even talked about. So I read all those books, I became more passionate, I decided this time I want to read even more books at the same time. So I would not read one book and finish it. I started reading more than 5 books at the same time. I would read one book one time. I was not that good with consistency, but in some ways I was reading them and I would finish them. So one day, if I was outside, I would read 30 pages of that book. That's it. When I took Digital Minimalism, that was the book that I took after reading Atomic Habits. So I'm reading this book, but do I in some ways understand it or not? Do I retain these informations? Does that go to my mind? Does that change something in me? So once before school, I was reading this book. So there are 3 ways for you to understand like what is better for you instead of using your phone. And I just read 1 page of it, 1 topic of it, that I had 3 parts. Of what I understood from teachers on the internet, they would tell us that you have to ask questions at the end of even 1 page that you read. So I did the same thing. When I finished that part, that page, that book, so it had 3 steps that you had to know, like this is the first step, this is the second step, and this is the third step. I paused after the 3rd step. So I said, okay, so do you remember any of these steps? I mean, the first step, I know like what is going on or if it's important or not for you. What was the first step? I went to the page and I looked at it. I said, oh, okay, so it's Clutterer's Heart. And I said, no, but I don't have to look at the book. It's not okay to look at the book. I have to retain something. I have to know. Okay, so what have you understood from the book? Okay, so once there was one scientist who said that they are trying to control us with these phones, or you have to do this. And there was another scientist, but I'm not even, I don't know. I've understood, yeah, there were so many things that I understood about digital minimalism. What is minimalism? Okay, so what is minimalism? Can you at least say some points about minimalism? Oh, well, no. Made me to think that, okay, I don't understand. I've read these 6 books, but I don't understand. Okay, so what do you remember from Psychology of Money? You have read 60 pages of it. Because at that time I was reading a couple of pages at that time. Yeah, there was some advices about investing. There was some. Can you articulate something? Do you remember any topic? Well, what should I say? And I said, you have to reread maybe, because you don't understand anything. You are very fast at your process. You're reading so fast. You're reading 1 book and you take the other book. Even if you haven't finished this one, you take the other book. Oh my God, I don't remember anything. What do you remember from your 2nd book? Well, I don't remember anything. I said, okay, I don't understand these books maybe. I don't read as I have to. So then I became more concerned about reading itself. Then I said, okay, I don't have to read more. I have to read less, maybe. So I started changing the way I read books. So here's the story. I struggled with reading books as the same way as you do. But there are some points I have to share with you. So in the next video, I'm going to be talking about new ways of reading books that I've understood, that I've taken from top readers on the internet, and how do I read and how do I retain now. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.